said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy... Flyover State of Fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear. I got a great guest for you, my co-host, my editor, my producer, my overall good time boy, Jusef. How you doing, baby?
I took your fear virginity as well. That was your first guest.
You did. This is a little stretch of returning guest. First, it was Brian, and then last episode was Katie from Werewolf Ambulance.
Yeah.
And now it's you. And if you can't tell the theme, it's just the general laziness of me not reaching out to new people.
Also, you know, how many fucking guests are we going to get? Eventually, we're going to have to.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's a community.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm happy to be back. My wife the other day was asking me when I was going to return to Fear because she's been suggesting horror movies for us to discuss. So yeah, I'm excited to be back.
I know. I now you just need to convince Alondra to come on because I know she would never, but like,
yeah, we gotta convince her.
Yeah, having actual drinks with Alondra and talking in person,
yeah,
she'd make a great guest.
No, yeah, she's awesome. She's my wife. I have to say.
Hi, Alondra. We're still working to get down to Texas, but probably in 2023 at this point. But no, today we are talking about the Terminator. But before we get to that, are there any like recent like horror interests or anything you've like seen or reviewed? Like it's August now, so.
I want to see Bodies, but the one that maybe we share in common is Black Phone. Did you see that one?
No, not yet. I know it's on VOD, so I'm gonna get a better chance to look at it. I've been really slacking with
the new movies. Yeah,
not even the movies and horror in general over this summer. I've like, for the first time in my life, TV has taken a front seat and movies have taken a back seat.
Then have you seen The Resort on Peacock?
No.
You should watch it. That's a fucking fun show. Right. It's the same producers as Palm Springs.
Oh, okay.
It has the same lead actress and has Sheedy from The Good Place.
Yeah, Midsummer. Oh, yeah, no, I'd absolutely check that out. It is so funny how that actor, which I'm not looking up right now, is only known as Sheedy.
Yeah, Sheedy and Midsummer, yeah.
Yeah. Like in Midsummer, like when it's like, oh, who's in it? You're like, oh, Sheedy, Florence Pugh, the rapist from Transformers.
Yeah. I mean, that happened to the Friends cast for a long ass time.
Oh, it's still to go to this day.
Joey and Rachel and all that shit.
Matthew Perry can't do anything with being like, oh yeah, Chandler's.
Well, I think Matthew Perry has like the worst luck in the world because all of the rest of them had like a passable series afterwards, like Cougar Town and
like Joey even went on for 4 seasons. You think it's a one-hit dud?
No, but he had he has a show still.
Episodes and Man with the Plan, like
Man with the Plan. Yeah, Episodes is actually pretty good.
Yeah, he had like a resurgence in his like really real quick Friends tangent.
Matt LeBlanc, Terminator. We're talking about.
Yeah, Matt LeBlanc had like a big resurgence like later in his career. If he took some time off, I think got sober, or I don't know if he was an addict, but like basically got his shit together. And Resurgence won a fucking Emmy and a Golden Globe and all that. Jennifer Aniston. I'm pretty sure David Schwimmer just went behind the camera and is super successful. Like
he's recently like done he did like the OJ stuff. And he had like a show in I think Apple or some shit like that.
Yeah, and and then Lisa Kudrow is just a fucking monster. So
Lisa Kudrow had the comeback, right? It was called.
Yeah, she did the comeback. She did a couple seasons comeback, but she had a whole she had her own show called like Webisodes. but yes, and Courtney Cox, like you said, did Cougar Town and some other shows, and
And
then
Scream.
Scream. Chandler, Matthew Perry.
Could I
failed.
have any more bad luck?
Like he apparently Sunset on his first show out was like a drama, like it's basically dramatic 30 Rock, and that was apparently pretty good. But
I
I do
actually
like,
liked it. Yeah, I
I
saw it
do,
when it came out.
I do like. Was it 16 again or
Oh yeah, the
17
Zac
again?
Efron one. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I like that movie. There's some good Thomas Lennon in it.
And the whole 9 yard, but that one was during Friends, so that
Yeah,
was
we got Bruce Willis on the show. So welcome to the Friends podcast, Flyover State of Friends. No. So, so what's the one where they talk about the Terminator?
That has to be the fucking title at this point, huh?
Yeah, I know. Usually it's just the name. It'll be the one where they talk about the Terminator. But no. So we're talking about the Terminator. 1980. I just blanked my notes. 1984. James Cameron's directorial debut or second film. But it's basically his directorial debut. His first film was Piranha 2. But before we even get into that, and I read the synopsis and I get to the fun facts and all that shit, why did he pick this movie? Because it is an interesting choice, even though it's such a popular movie.
No, yeah. So kind of like Seven. I love all genres of within the horror spectrum. But I didn't know this was like a hot take or kind of like Die Hard is a Christmas movie type take. I saw it as a kid. The movie I saw it as a kid, and it fucking terrified me.
It's
It
scary.
was, to me, it was a legitimate horror movie. And one of my wife's favorite movies of all time is Terminator 2. But recently she's starting to go to the Terminator 1 route. And I think a year ago or 2 years ago we were watching it, and I had told her beforehand that I considered this movie a horror movie, and we were watching it together, and she's like, fuck, this is a horror movie. This is a slasher, essentially. It has body horror. It has existential horror. It has everything that could fuck you up. But since T2 was so action heavy, and it just devolved into that through all the sequels, and everybody just assumes that the first one is just a straight out
it's Dread
action movie.
This is Dread. The first is Dread. Like,
yeah, no, it's pure Dread. Yeah,
because you nailed it.
It's just they gave Jason a fucking submachine gun, but it's still Jason. It's still Michael Myers.
They and like in the Wikipedia even, like it's noted of like, oh, this isn't heavily inspired from, Halloween, and the tropes are there, and the way Arnold goes through just beat by beat, and the way the characters react. It's a slasher.
Yeah.
I think this has the same. Go with me here, listeners, and I make weird comparisons to these things. It has the same energy as the Rambo franchise, where the first Blood Rambo, that's just a fucking drama that has an action scene at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like generally, that's what it is. He makes some cool shit, but it's a PTSD drama, and then it became this big action franchise and this blood fest. And when the general audiences think of it, they go, oh yeah, the action movies, and you no, sit down and watch the first one. It's far from an action movie. Not far from, but like, and I think that's the Terminator in the sense, right? It's not an action movie. It's a thriller and horror movie. It's a slasher. I mean,
no,
so,
and it's generally terrifying, and it has this like sequences, and we're always gonna get there, but like the practical effects and the attention to detail really like fucks you up a little bit. You're like, oh my god, I don't know what would I do if this like monster is like after me. Like it's just indestructible machine that's constantly wanting to kill me.
And it'll find you, and it'll destroy anything in its path, and methodically sometimes too. Which like, once again, when we start breaking down beat by beat, but like one thing I noticed while taking notes on this watch, it was like I forgot how many like layers get peeled back of like what the Terminator can do throughout. But also,
and and like to emphasize your point is like there are a lot of things that you associate with the T2 especially with what the T-1000 does. But you see it happening here, even
Mhm.
even in a small scale, like just like imitating the voice, or
Yeah.
it's the small things that you go like, oh, I associate that with the T2 action sequences. But if you put it like a singular, it's so fucked up that he killed her mom,
Mhm.
and he's doing her voice to manipulate her to
And we
talk.
don't see it. We just see the phone call, and it's like
Yep,
dead. I watched T2 also after this, just because it was like
you gotta do it.
next up, and I don't know. I'll make the decision at the end of this movie. I prefer to watch this one more than T2
I
these
do.
days.
Me too.
One thing about the horror, that also, and I think it probably hits more today than it in this climate, unfortunately, than it probably did in the 80s, is there's just a lot of public shootings.
Yeah.
And no, and I more mean that, and like that's equally as scary as the
Yeah.
part, right? Like the unimaginable of like the cops going, "Well, just stay there. You're in a crowded space. Don't move."
No, and especially being in a nightclub, there's been so many shootings in a
Yeah.
nightclub. But at the same time, it goes into the pantheon of incredible nightclub sequences,
Oh,
like
it's the most.
Collateral or like John Wick's or stuff like that, where like it's such a good juxtaposition of somebody just like, I got out of work, I'm gonna get fucked up,
Yeah. It's like
it may be get fucked,
because
and suddenly everybody's getting fucked.
it sets it up where it's date night.
Yeah.
But all right, while we delve into that, I'm gonna read I've not read the
Synopsis.
synopsis that I pulled from Google. So let's see if this is correct, and it should be because this is a
Word for word.
popular fucking movie. Disguised as a human, a cyborg assassin known as a Terminator travels from 2029 to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
Sent to protect Sarah, Kyle Reese, who divulges the coming of Skynet, an artificial intelligence system that will spark a nuclear holocaust. Sarah is targeted because Skynet knows that her unborn son will lead the fight against them. With the virtually unstoppable Terminator in hot pursuit, she and Kyle attempt to escape. So that's pretty accurate. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
And have sex.
So yes, and they have sex, and as a common theme in everything, when we get to the sex, how are you horny in this situation? Um, but
And
uh,
I've always like, I know this is like, I've always enjoyed the 80s and 90s sex scenes in where it's just like the man just holding on for dear life. He's just like holding on the boobs, and he's just like, yep. It was kind of like in the contract, it's just like, I'm gonna show a little bit of nipple, but he has to
nope,
cover up my boobs.
you
And
gotta
she,
cup the boobs, no other hand play, no other thing, and you're just gonna blow everything inside of me.
yep. And
Uh,
and he was a virgin too, so one shot, one kill. Like he's
I
just
did
like,
not pick up on the
no, he's
virginity.
like, because she was like, "Have you ever loved anybody?" He's like, "I've never loved anybody. I've never been with anybody."
Oh yeah. Because so he's also just kind of like
And
I was
that's
like waiting
impressive.
for
He
this.
lasted that long being a
He
virgin.
lasted long, but he's also just like a star fucker. Like to him,
Oh yeah, no, he's a
that's
groupie.
to him that's like, oh hey, Margot Robbie wanted to bang me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's that's
That's
their Pam
Mary.
Anderson on the wall is Sarah Connor in
No,
2029.
yeah, that's like one of the disciples wanting to fuck Mary because he's a huge fan of Jesus.
Yeah, that's a better analogy than mine. Uh, just some housekeeping. Its budget, it was a very very big hit. It had a $6 million budget or $6.4 million budget, and it grossed 78.3 million. So it's so fucking impressive. And James, just to talk about James Cameron, I didn't read it today, but I always remember this. I must have watched like a featurette years ago on probably T2. Um, he got like they let him basically be a director because he was working as a PA on like a low budget like horror movie, not Piranha 2, before he got Piranha 2.
Mhm.
And like he was the guy who was like, "Oh, let's electrocute maggots or something like that to make them like squirm around in a shot." Or I think that's the story. I didn't look it up. I always remember that. And then he said, "Yeah, they kind of just gave me a promotion to direct the next thing because I
I electrocuted worms.
Yeah, like frame that shot or whatever. And I said, okay. And then I look back and I think like, and I wrote a question for you, like, I don't. It's kind of hard to fathom like who James Cameron becomes from this one movie.
No, yeah,
Like, it's a well directed movie and like well made.
it's a very well made movie. It has great practical effects. It's very resourceful. But yeah, imagining that this guy goes from that to other good action movies, but to spectacle like
Yeah, it goes to
Titanic and Avatar.
like he goes to Aliens, and then he goes to the Abyss, and then he's very selective, and it's weird
Yeah, he
because
does True Lies, and then
yeah,
does
Titanic,
at Titanic, where it's
yeah,
like the
uh,
biggest movie of all time for a
and
while, and
then
then does the other biggest
Avatar.
movie of all time, and then
It's
suddenly he's like, you know what, fuck you guys, I only want to live in Pandora for the rest of my life, and where it was like, no, what?
and I want to become the world's most expert on the Titanic after even the movie and fucking deep dive and scuba dive and like reconstruct. Like it's baffling to think like watching today, be like that's like us talking about Jordan Peele in 10 years and being like,
Yeah.
yeah, do you know he's in the White House?
Yeah, did you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, did you know that he used to have like a sketch comedy show on Comedy Central? You know
yeah.
that shit network that went bankrupt 10 years ago?
And now it's just reruns of Tosh.0
Yeah.
and The Office.
Like Comedy Central is Tosh.0 and MTV is Ridiculousness,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah.
And they are the exact same fucking show.
I'll never ever forget that it was like MTV's like what 50th, 40th anniversary a couple years ago,
And it's
and
just ridiculousness.
it was 24 hours of ridiculousness.
It's so fucking stupid. But
But anyway, the movie.
circling back to what you said, that is heavily inspired by Halloween. Yesterday I wrote like one of my first notes is like the score is both eerie but fucking iconic. Like I
Oh,
would play it in my fucking car, but it's very similar to the Halloween score.
yeah, just heavy key, couple notes, and I mean even the intro. We'll get in the intro. Even how it starts off, right?
Yeah.
Not with the disclaimer, but with like a kind of like a things that are happening, and then you get a title card, but like the score and everything happens over the Terminator logo. It's kind of like Halloween with the fucking lantern, you
Yeah.
know. Like same structure. Um, and I mean, like famously, like Friday the 13th, literally, wrote down beat for beat in the theater, and they just ripped it and put a new killer in. This thankfully doesn't do that, but
No,
so
it has enough elements that distinguish it.
yeah,
You can always like it. There's always like a fine line of like inspiration and just plagiarism,
well,
but this one clearly is inspiration.
you have the roommate Ginger and her
Dude,
boyfriend have sex.
the roommate deserved to die. Okay, I'm
She's
gonna say
banging with
this.
her headphones on.
No,
Oh,
she had a glass of milk after sex. Who the fuck has a glass of milk after
ew.
sex?
Yeah,
Who goes like, you know what? That was a good bang session. I need a glass of milk and a sandwich.
that was
Now she is the star of her own horror movie, and we saw her in like that was a serial killer on the loose, and Terminator ended her life.
yeah. Refused to answer the phone, drinking milk. But so it does start off with you
Them
get this
arriving.
intro, them arriving. You get Arnold,
I love
just
the arrival.
fucking buck ass naked Arnold. I actually think the arrival looks better in Terminator than T2 does.
100%.
T2's like a little too clean. It looks like a set. This doesn't. It just looks grimy. And he walks right up to
Very
a bunch
young.
of punks and a young Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton.
Blink and you'll miss it. And as multiple notes I have in this fucking movie is, why would anyone confront a naked man especially of that stature,
And
about
man,
anything?
they got very shiny knives. Okay, they stay up all night polishing the fuck out of those knives,
Fucking
and
weekend.
no Austrian with his dong out is gonna stand in their way. Okay,
Yeah.
have you seen the video of him just walking around naked?
No, I haven't.
It's
I'm sure it's a hammer.
They had to edit that scene because it would have sounded like. Yep.
Yeah, just slop. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, that's why they call him
Good
the
for
governor. It's not because he was the governor; it's because of his penis.
Good for Arnold.
It's his own state.
I expect nothing less. And talk about Arnold briefly. Like,
you cannot get that jack. You cannot get that body without having a huge penis. It's just like it's genetics.
No. So Arnold at this point in his big dong, he's only in a few movies. He's in a movie in the late '60s called Hercules in New York. They dub over his voice. It's fucking. Yeah. It's so bad. It's funny. But then, like, he does Pumping Iron. He does Pumping Iron, and people kind of know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, the bodybuilder, him and Lou Ferrigno. Then his first big role, he does 2 Conan movies. He does Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. And still doesn't do much acting and lifting in that. And they originally went out for this movie to be Kyle Reese. And they wanted O.J. Simpson to play the Terminator.
Whoa!
That is like the main. Like fun fact about this, or at least it was discussed.
That would have been iconic.
Well, the legend goes, who knows how true, is like the producers remember like, guy's too nice to be a Terminator. Which if you know about OJ at that time, I get it. Like it's the Naked Gun. He's an all-pro running back.
Yeah. He hasn't brutally murdered 2 people allegedly,
but so Arnold steps in the Terminator, and then ever since 1984, I mean, this is the movie to propel him into that stratosphere of superstar.
You know what's crazy about his career is that you cannot if you don't know Arnold at all, like Arnold doesn't exist in this world, and somebody makes a movie about a fucking person that not only wins the most prestigious event in their profession. They don't even have to be bodybuilding. They win it 6 times in a row. They do not speak the language, and they conquer a completely different fucking profession for decades. And then he says, "You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go to politics, and I'm gonna be the governor of a state of a country that I wasn't even fucking born in." And like, what the fuck is happening in this movie?
And be incredibly smart about
and marry like royalty
and marry a Kennedy.
What the fuck? Like you would be like, this movie's out of control. What the fuck is happening in this movie?
He definitely has a story I think like no one else, and he's really smart. Like if you have actually listened to him talk about, or at least give stuff on like he's big into gerrymandering, right, or like abolishing it. You're like, oh yeah, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But circling back to the intro, what I really love about the intro is like the Terminator just fucking goes like the thinker, right? Mm-hmm. Almost. And then Kyle Reese goes like a fucking fish on the floor.
And Kyle Reese comes in completely different, where he is
just fucked up.
The straw, and the cops are immediately there, and he has to fucking a whole shootout with them.
I love that contrast.
They do have to do that. And real quick back to Arnold's career, they did try to recreate his like path, and it didn't work at all with Dolph Lundgren. Like he's in Rocky IV, and then they try to throw him in shit to the point where on Masters of the Universe, Stallone was on set and said, "You're giving that guy lines."
But you know what the fucked up thing about Dolph? Dolph is actually smart.
No, like, he's a genius. He's like a
PhD physicist. Like a super smart person.
So, but yeah, Arnold's a one and done. But yeah, the juxtaposition between Kyle Reese and the Terminator coming through is Terminator's smooth, and he gets actually like his first fit with the trench coat and like the 80s with the chains.
Yes. His boots, his like fingerless gloves. He looks amazing.
I like his first fit.
And I think, and the thing about when we were discussing like Cameron and discussing like his trajectory, obviously you cannot give it 100% to Cameron. It's a team, but one of the things that they did super smart, and one of the elements that really drive it to the point where you go like, "Oh, this is 100% a horror movie," is once he goes through the flames and he gets his hair singed and he doesn't have eyebrows.
Yeah,
He looks fucking like
menacing.
like a fucking monster, like a Frankenstein monster. But
He-
they put heavy makeup on him, so he looks distorted even when he's like a normal, like even when it's Arnold face. That way, there's like a smoother transition when there's the animatronic faces that
yeah,
they're using for him, because he's dead, like he has a lot of makeup. So you go like, okay, I kind of buy. I
I
love the
buy it.
animatronics; they look amazing, but it's a better sell.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know. So he's walking, and then we kind of, after we get our introduction of the two of them, we kind of see Kyle Reese. We understand him, and he does look for the Sarah Connor in the phone book first. Kyle Reese does, and so does Arnold, and we get the two of them. Then we go to Sarah Connor, and she's just this, like, she's your girl next door, right? She is, to do the trope, she is Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. She's Laurie Strode, innocent. She's
But
working
better
at
because she has a mullet.
she has a mullet. She's working at the diner.
Mhm.
She's a terrible waitress.
Yep.
I like sans the kid fucking with her. Like, she really did not have anyone's order down. Like, it was kind of a simple order.
Hey man, she
But
doesn't hear. Okay,
uh,
the hair is blocking the hearing.
oh, I will say this because it is one of my notes. Kyle Reese did grab some of the freshest fucking Nike high tops he could have.
Oh yeah, that homeless man had a good fit as well.
Yeah.
You would understand that the punks that Arnold kills have a fun fit for him, but that homeless guy could have just had like dirty underwear and a trench coat. That would have been
Yeah.
it. And you would
So
have been like, well, Kyle Reed is fuck.
and then we go back. We cut right back to Arnold, kind of after we get her whole just day to day what she's up to. I don't think there's much to
Oh, a
hammer on
sweet ass
there.
moped and
Oh, yes.
the friend that is tanning way too much and deserves to die.
We get our meeting of the characters, and then we go back to Arnold, and he is knowing his shit in a gun shop. Bam, 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 and we get a great Dick Miller sighting.
Yes.
And
That's when he was like appearing in like every single horror movie that he could.
Did Gremlins already come out at that time?
I'm not good with numbers. Like dates, release dates. This is not movie trivia, okay, Joe?
Okay, jeez.
Relax. This is not.
Yeah, the same year.
Okay, but he had like a ration where he would like a streak, not a rash.
Okay.
English is my second language. So I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm with Arnold. I stand with Arnold. We have the same physique. I don't know if you've noticed.
That's the worst Arnold anyone's ever done on.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not even gonna follow up with my own.
I'm Arnold. That's a little better.
But yeah, he would appear like in a bunch of horror movies, just like those small cameos.
Yeah, he's a great character actor who's just like a legend of B movies. But so, he murders him, and then we go back to Lyndall Hamilton, Sarah Connor getting ready, and her date cancels on her, but we get a fucking Ginger and her creepy ass boyfriend. I think his name's Mike.
He's in another horror movie too. He's very fucking creepy. Like he just corners her and just like creepy smiles, smells her, I think, and then kisses her.
The kiss was the weirdest part of it, because I got it of like, oh, you're my best friend's boyfriend, like whatever.
I would barely hug your wife. I would do like a side hug, pat on the back hug, and that's like if we've been known each other for like years. That would be like the shoulder to shoulder pat.
No, gotta as your wife's leaving, gotta like run in and give her a big old kiss.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, super fucking creepy. We cut, and she's like, "I'm gonna catch a movie," but when we do see her, she's just sitting at a bar by herself.
No, you're misremembering. She's walking down the street on her way to the movies, and Kyle fucking Reed is walking
Oh, I
around like
thought that happened. Okay, yeah, Kyle Reese is like following her but won't approach her.
like a creep. But the reasoning why and later, which makes sense, and there's a lot of like this movie's super smart in that it requires a lot of exposition. It requires a lot of explaining to the audience, but they do it during car chase scenes. They do it during like fixing wounds, and there's like action, and there's like things that keep you captivated while you're absorbing and processing the information. So while he's in the car chasing and people are shooting at him, he's like, I didn't know who the Terminator is because they're now like superhuman looking. So
Yeah,
I couldn't make a move on you until he exposed himself in the open.
good point. But she's at a bar
Thank you.
and she
Good point,
is
sir.
yeah, good point. She's at a bar and she is like listening. I don't know, the TV's on. It's the loudest fucking TV there's ever been in a bar. And it's like Sarah Connor, like two Sarah Connors have died.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
Oh
had
no,
happened.
you're right. You're 100%
I was right.
right.
I thought I was
You're
fucking
100%
right.
right.
And she's like, then she's
Why don't
freaking
you get
out.
a drink in before the movie, Joe? You've never done that. You get a nice
Dude,
drink, get relaxed, then go watch a movie.
only reason I thought the movie was just like she gave up on it because it was a weird thing where she's like, I'm gonna catch a movie, just being like, well, movies start around 7, so I'll go to anyone.
Yeah.
Like she had plans to go on a date.
Yeah.
Um,
Who cancels on Sarah Connor? Come on, man.
idiots.
Linda Hamilton. Ooh, and especially in T2.
Yeah, she nice. So then she goes running, right? She can't get in touch, but you have the cops are driving in at this point, and sorry, I'm sneezy as could be. She.
I'm gonna keep that in. I'm not gonna edit anything
Okay,
out.
that's fine. Sorry about that, guys. So then so then she gets panicked, but she leaves the bar, and then that's when she notices there's a guy following her,
Yeah, and
and
she goes into the first club that she sees.
it's like the techno night or something like that. Like it's
It's like a very 80s biker punk club, and like it's neon and people have chains on.
uh-huh.
It's very very fitting with, which also like is a great aesthetic choice because Arnold shows up and he fits in fucking perfectly. He doesn't stand out because he's wearing the get up of everybody in the club. And I love the sequence where like all three of them. Oh, okay. So I should like backtrack a little bit before we hit that.
Yeah.
The note that I want to hit is like the one that really cements that this is a full-on slasher is the killing of the best friend
Well, that's what.
after after sex. No, because he kills the best friend and then goes to the club to look for her.
Yeah.
So
But what happens kind of in that time is they like the cops are aware of it. They're trying to get in touch with her.
yeah,
And she does contact the cops. And as we mentioned earlier, they say, wait there. This is where you are. But Arnold already showed up at the apartment, we
yeah,
find out, to murder the best friend and her boyfriend after having sex with fucking
yeah.
headphones on
So
and
that
drinking milk.
cements it. Like it's a slasher. A character that just had sex dies.
Yeah.
Kyle
And
Reese has sex and he dies.
yeah, no one's
Uh,
arguing that it's not a slasher here.
no, I'm saying, but it cements. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that to me, that moment cements it, and also the way that kill is shot, like the slow motion, him coming through the door, her like barely crawling out,
Oh,
him, and him
it's
killing her. That's full on horror movie. That's
it's
not an action
it's
sequence.
it's Michael Myers, and she must live close enough to that nightclub. Let's say that he gets there pretty quick.
Yeah, his
But
walk. She was walking. I don't think
but
she.
what stops is the Terminator thinks he killed Sarah Connor when he kills the friend at the house. But
Okay.
because he hears the voicemail of her saying, pick up the phone, like there's someone after me, blah blah. And then
Oh,
that's when he says, I'm gonna go ruffle around in this like dresser or whatever, and he finds her ID with her
yeah.
name, and he finds her address book, and that address book comes into play through the whole
Later when
movie
yeah,
for the killing of the mother and the cabin.
yeah.
Um, so so yeah,
They all meet together in the club,
the
and
club's
that's
the
a great
most
sequence where like
iconic scene. Like
yeah,
shit's flying everywhere. I mean, all the club also the Terminator as an aesthetic just reminds me of every 80s and 90s like laser tag you ever went to growing up as a kid.
that's funny.
Right, just the way like they built those laser tags were like
Yeah,
the nightclub in the Terminator.
yep. Yeah, the
Uh
neon, the shadows, the weird
yeah.
setup, the weird like places where you can hide and shoot people.
They probably had the theme pumping through some of those. They probably felt awesome, like da 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 da.
Yeah.
So so he's gunning. He has the gun right in Sarah Connor's face. Kyle Reese has been watching the whole time, fires off that shotgun blast, shoots him back, giving them some space to then run away, and then they start to flee, and then um this is where we get
The car chase.
we get a car chase like through the tunnels. I just wanted to make sure I'm on the right track there, and
Yeah,
it's a pretty sweet.
it's them running away from the Terminator and also them running away from all the
Cops.
cops that were coming in to save Sarah because they think that Kyle Reese kidnapped her and he is the one that has been killing all the Sarah Connors.
Yes, which is fair.
I mean, it's a very fair assumption. And then when he's being interviewed, he's going full fucking crazy. So you go like, yeah, he's
Yeah,
clearly the one killing
the
everybody.
guy's like 2029. You guys don't understand.
Yeah. No, and a detail that my wife and I noted, like that viewing that we were like discussing, it's a horror movie and how it connects to the second one. The psychiatrist or the douchebag doctor,
Yeah.
there's never a scene where he is looking at the Terminator. So when in the second one, when he sees him, he's not afraid or in shock or like doesn't recognize him because he never sees him in the first one. Because we were like talking about like why is he such a douchebag to Sarah Connor is like the fucking Terminator is right there. He saw him in the past killing everybody, but there's never a scene where they show
You
that.
never saw him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So they're now in the police station. They do that chase, and like you said, we do a great job of the exposition being told to Sarah Connor, but in action. And then the cops do get them and apprehend them, and like Arnold the Terminator just hangs back though, which is like these layers that I feel like we're being led to. Like at first, we don't know he's a cyborg as an audience, right?
Yeah, it could be like the dude is fucking crazy.
We don't know he's a cyborg. Then we see the eye, not just the eye pick off, but like the eye, the
The red eye.
viewing, the red eye viewing, like the Jusef, Puerto Rican, like
Fat.
that's what would come up. Not fat, handsome.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, and it's a great body horror sequence. Like he's tearing up his arm, he's tearing up his eye. We get great practical effects of his hand moving, his face.
So we do, after we get the interrogation, we go back to Arnold, right? And he cuts open his fucking forearm, and it does what Empire Strikes Back did, the same thing with the arm and the metal in it. But you see him moving around, and you see those like hydraulics shit just moving, and then he goes to the door, the window door, and that's the iconic. He picks out the eye, and it's like the way you said earlier, like it also slowly introduces the makeup before he does that, and just goes to like robot head.
Yes,
which still looks great. Like
I preferred that. I enjoy that as a viewer more than outdated CGI or even great CGI. Because even though I go like that's clearly a robot head, I'm far more impressed and more invested in it being an actual thing.
Yeah,
You know?
it's
Somebody sat down for hours, days to create an Arnold head.
the suspension of belief. It easily goes away. It's easy. Um, so he does all that, gets himself back into shape, gets a new wardrobe change.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Superstar doesn't stay with his same clothes. Come on.
no. Outfit change.
Yeah.
Outfit change. We're nearing the finale here. He outfit changes. But they drive to. Then he goes to the police station. And he's like,
kills fucking everybody.
He's like, Sarah Connor. And they're like, you can't see her, whatever. Which is so funny. He even asks. Like, that's the silly part about it.
Yeah, he was trying to be polite. He was like,
yeah,
I'm gonna try a different tactic.
You know what's so interesting? I think about the first Terminator and second Terminator is like the first one, like Cameron and the writer, they have a bite, right? They're just, this is the movie, this is the grittiness. Second one, like not Arnold, but the T what 9000 or
T1000.
T1000. He would just murder all those children. Like if this was in Terminator 1, he would have murdered all those fucking kids. But
and there's a lot of beats that you would think is from like all the one-liners, the "Come with me if you want to live."
Well, that's in this movie, but not.
Yeah, but exactly, like all those one-liners that you associate immediately with Arnold and Terminator 2 came earnestly.
Well,
the first one.
Well, this is the scene that Arnold has probably made $1 billion over, and he says, "I'll be back."
I'll be back.
And literally, that's like John Travolta in Dancing. To this day, he can't be in any movie, even if it's a serious movie, without having some sort of assumption of "I'll be back." And he does, and he drives the fucking car right through the front of the police station, and just starts picking people off.
Yep. Can we talk about real quick, Lance as a detective?
Oh yeah, Lance Henriksen. I love him as a detective.
Oh yeah, like it's just like we know that in a few years, like he's gonna be in Aliens with Cameron as well.
Yeah.
But his chief police with the cigarettes just like barely, like the way that he smokes is like he barely hangs on to the cigarette. It's just like like on the tip of his fucking lips, hanging on for dear life.
The perfect angle.
Yeah, he kills everybody, and Kyle and Sarah escape. That's when they go to the motel. They fuck, and Arnold kills the mother, like we talked about, and he comes into the motel to.
Yeah, she patches him up.
Yeah, and that's when he confesses that he had a picture of her. That he doesn't understand why John gave him the picture, which I guess sometime in the future he like connected the dots that
I think John Connor always knew that Kyle Reese was his father, and eventually, like, now this, right, we're retroactive, like, post Terminator 2, she explained, because he now could wrap his head around this world, like, your father is this, and he comes back, and, one day you have to, like, basically, I always assume, like, you have to send him back. Like, that, in the Terminator world, amongst anything, the time travel gets the most, like, finicky.
Now, yeah, if it would have been just 2 movies, it would have still been questionable.
Yeah,
some things, but they're tight enough that you don't nitpick that much. Yeah. Like it's the paradox, right? How can you send somebody back to kill if you have somebody to kill in the future? It means that you weren't successful, so you can't send somebody back. And also, the reason why Skynet exists is because of Arnold's arm and all that shit. So
it's not like paradox. Yeah, and it's not like Back to Future rules where like there could be multiple of us at a time.
He kind of mentions it though. He says a future. He doesn't say our future.
Yeah, because the thing is also like I guess is the dumbest, obvious dumb question is, why don't they just keep sending them back to that day until they get it right?
They destroyed that. They destroyed the humans came in as soon as they sent the Terminator back. They sent Kyle and they destroyed the machine.
Okay, thank you.
So that's, I mean, I guess.
That's a reason. I never picked up on that. So
Yeah.
the one thing they do make in their cabin together, like you already mentioned, like we learned that the Terminator can mimic the voice of humans
Which
that
is
he
fucking
touched,
terrifying.
and
On face value.
she's talking to her mother, saying, "Hey, I'm safe at this cabin, our cabin." And they're also making pipe bombs.
Yeah.
Which it comes in a bit of a play, but
Yeah, no, that's what fucked him up.
yeah. And then
that's what destroys the tank, and then that's what splits the Terminator in half and kills Kyle.
So that's you pipe bombs, and then we just kind of then Arnold comes comes to the cabin. Guy has a great sense of location for.
He's a robot, Joe. Don't question.
But it comes and then.
Hey, do you question Michael Myers' sense of location, because he's also very good at finding people?
I wasn't questioning anyone.
Come on, Joe. Location. Right? This is a movie fight now.
Oh, jeez. All right. All right. Meet me at my hotel then.
Is it an Arnold movie or is it a movie starring Arnold?
Well, I would say this is an Arnold movie because it launched his superstar career. Compared to a movie starring Arnold, like let's say. I
feel very old now that I guess my taste completely fucking changed, because I cannot imagine myself watching that at all. Like today.
Oh,
yeah. I would be like, shut the fuck up. It's just a movie. Can you just enjoy it?
That used to be appointment viewing.
Yeah, 100%.
But Arnold shows up, and it's basically just there's another good car chase then. Like, there's a bit of a fight at the cabin, they chase, and then we get to they're throwing the pipe bombs at him during the chase.
Yep.
And a fucking truck even hits Arnold during this chase.
That's another beat. There's a lot of beats that turn.
Like, it hits him. And I love these truck drivers in that scene, though, because they're kind of like, huh. We hit some, but what? And they're slowing down, but Arnold's he's not grabbing the truck from slowing down, but he is. And then he gets in and he murders the two fucking guys. And then he drives the big rig and starts chasing them more. And
you know what T2 felt like? It feels like Cameron didn't have, when he was making the first one, right? He was forced to, there's I've said this multiple times to my wife, so she's probably gonna skip forward, but there's a scene in the beginning where he's stealing a car, and that scene is shot illegally. They ran out of money.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Arnold and him. It was Cameron with a camera.
Yeah.
Cameron with a camera.
Camera, say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, Cameron with a camera. He was following Arnold, and he walked in the street. He punched the car. He got in.
I never knew this.
And that was done without permits. That was done outside of the budget. That was completely him improvising. So now in T2, he has a shit ton of money. He's like, "Ooh, I really wanted the truck scene to be even better. I really wanted that." So I felt like he just rethreaded things that he thought.
I'll say this:
if I had that money, I would have done it amazingly.
Oh, T2 is just a man with an unlimited budget.
Yeah.
This movie's charm, and we use the word charm for things that are made with a smaller budget, but comes from shit like that of getting creative.
And ends the same way too, with the robot.
Oh, it's
factory.
The same. We probably would have gotten, if this movie had a bigger budget, right? We probably would have gotten him seeing him kill the mother, and more scenes with Arnold. But this is a movie where less is more.
Yes, 100%.
And most good slashers are.
Most, if not all horror movies, less is more, because Hitchcock, I know that Hitchcock is canceled and he's not our favorite in our show, But Hitchcock is brilliant in that sense. Like he's always said, what the audience comes up in their head is far worse than I can ever put on film. So
Every time.
horror is less is more. I cannot imagine what he did to his mother. Like I could come up with a million things, but if he shows me like just one shot, one kill, you were like, that was scary.
There's a reason, same brain or same line of thinking. There's a reason I call like Jaws the greatest mistake of all time, because if that shark worked and they made the movie Spielberg wanted to make, I'm not referencing Jaws today.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's just another fish movie.
Well, there's like a few other things, like a little different, but he reminded me to bring up T2. Like one thing Cameron has always liked to do is be cute, like in these things, and that mean like in T2, there's like you see it on like TikTok all the time. It's like Guns N' Roses. The gun comes out of the roses because they did the soundtrack, right? The thing in Terminator that's like that is, I thought it was like she's wearing a Jetson shirt, like something in the future.
Okay.
You know, like that. He's always done shit like that, at least. But so the I guess where we're at in the plot, though, they're in this chase, and
we
they
got to the pipe bombs in the track.
They wind up in a warehouse. A warehouse of what? I don't know. But they wind up in a warehouse.
But here, at this point, they exploded the car, and we get the great reveal of the stop motion animation skeleton Terminator.
Arnold is
like done. Thick neck. I always love that he's like thick neck, because it kind of like goes in line with both of the Terminators that they showed, which are bulky dudes with, they look huge. The Terminator.
Well, Robert Patrick isn't.
Well, no, he's liquid though.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about the Terminator that they showed in the flashback that has like a machine gun. He's like this.
You know what it always reminds me of? I don't know why, because like being in the arcade as a kid, and the Terminator game where they're just walking around
and you have like the machine gun.
Yeah. But the Terminator, we finally see the design, and that is looked apparently just like Cameron's original idea. Cameron's idea came from a dream he had of exoskeleton, like I think dragging him across the floor with like a knife or something.
And that's fucking that moment when she's like crawling away. Honestly, I guess like obviously like all horror and all like, well, I'm not gonna say all horror, all movies as a general. There's a general consensus. I'm not breaking ground here. You bring in a lot of your own personal experiences, and your personality really dictates what piece of medium you connect to. This movie scares the shit out of me because I used to have nightmares of being stuck in a confined space and not being able to move. And seeing her crawl through that thing with the Terminator trying to grab her, it is still to this day. I'm 34 years old, and it still fucking unnerves me watching her crawl.
Oh, well, that is, it's like, and they're in the weirdest spot, right? It's like you said, they're in a small space. They're crawling, all three of them, and Kyle Reese then gets into it, and it's like that fear. They get into it, but he also jams the fucking bomb into him and rips him in half.
Yeah,
she does her best to save Kyle Reese, to get him, like, get up, soldier, and that, but he's dead. They get their goodbye, and then excuse me, the more we talk, the stuffier I'm getting.
We're almost at the end. We're almost there.
And then she then is crawling through what, like, almost, which feels like
a compressor, right? It's like
that's why it's like what does this factory do? But whatever.
Yeah.
But she's
maybe
crawling,
they make like stamps.
At first it feels like a fucking vent.
Yeah, but then it reveals to be those, I guess, trash compactors. Maybe it's
a compactor. I don't know. It's a hydraulic machine, and
also like the design of the red eye as well. I forgot to mention that it really does evoke horror. like those big fucking red eyes.
Oh, they're
And then you
terrifying.
see them like being slowly crushed and the light slowly going away.
And she pushes it down, the hands out there, and just slams the thing. And she gets so lucky by hitting the right button, and it fucking crushes them down. And one thing I've felt to miss because of how well that Terminator design looks is it's a Stan Winston design. We forget too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I completely forgot to call that out because that's important. Especially that's one of his famous creatures, along with the thousands of others he made.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I did not know that. All right, so I gave you a fun fact that I didn't know, and now you got.
yes, Stan Winston. Because I always find it interesting the special effect, the famous special effect guys, your Savini's, your Stan Winston's,
Savini watch.
um, that he the smaller movies they show up in.
Yeah.
Because at that time they're still
You gotta
like,
work, man. You gotta
yeah,
work, and sometimes like a random ass fucking movie needs practical effects, and
big
they're gonna
design.
call one of the best guys. And back then, there, even though it was more common to have a guy that was doing practical effects more than now. Now it's just this fucking farm of CGI dudes that are being mistreated and
Yeah,
underpaid, forced to do a She-Hulk in under 5 minutes. Um, Back then, it used to be like 10 guys that everybody knew. Oh, Joe is the best
yeah.
pants guy. Or
He's taking care of all the hair on the suit, and like we'll have this to you, and
yeah.
all nighters probably felt worth it to do the all nighters, not just
Oh
I'm
yeah,
all
like
nighting it to
the
render
team
us.
that did Lord of the Rings, they worked for almost a year, like doing all the orcs and doing all the shields and doing all the things. And then cut to Hobbit, and they gave him like 5 months, a month. Hey, in a month we're gonna start shooting. So
You know,
get
it's
to
funny you
it.
mentioned The Hobbit. I have I'm probably not going to finish because of my nose. A Sean Astin beer,
It's
inspired
it's
beer
it's
called Willie's Gold.
it's blurred because of your filter.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not impressive. It's called Willie's Gold, and it
That's
has
a
a
good. That's a good.
Hobbit turning into the Sean Astin, and it says,
Oh, okay. From the Goonies. I was like,
yeah,
I was like, because I was in Hobbit land in my head.
it says Willie stole the Hobbit's gold, but he got it back with the help of the Goonies.
That's
It's
okay.
fine. It's a fine beer. But
I could have done without the tagline.
eh, that's how I realized what it was about. Uh,
Oh.
anyway,
Come on, Joe. You have two movie podcasts and you're gonna make those two connections. You're canceled. You're canceled now.
all right. But no, so the Terminator, there's a little bit more. It doesn't just end there. It ends with her about a year, I would say 4 months later or so, but
A
just
few
trying
months,
to base
yeah.
on like her pregnancy.
She has a prominent belly, but not to the point where you go like, oh, she's gonna pop at any moment.
Yeah, and she's
I think,
driving through either Mexico or New Mexico, just based
yeah.
on like the desert and the she's speaking Spanish, and she's recording herself, her vlogs, basically her audio vlogs for her son, and
Which play a big part in Terminator Salvation.
yeah, I've actually never seen Salvation.
He listens like Christian Bale listens to those tapes in that
Oh,
movie.
good. I'm glad it gets tied back to eventually.
Yeah.
So what is one note about the end of that? I was like, wow, the mic it just must be. She probably can't hear anything. That mic has to just be picking up all that fucking
All
wind.
the wind, all
Yeah.
the wind just.
There's a storm coming. So, and then it ends with the storm coming. So it leaves this room for a sequel. But the cool thing about the sequel is it's about a decade later.
A decade later, and it it showcases that the Judgment Day was stopped in her head. Like the timing is different because it's supposed to start.
Like 87 or something like that.
Yeah, he says 40 years after the nuclear war, and he says 2027. So yeah, 87. So she has like this like existential crisis essentially, like the end of the world should have happened, but her actions altered the future, and that's why it's
Yeah.
happening now. So yeah, it's kind of like it's cool. I fucking love T2. I'm not gonna be like,
Oh, T2 is great. T2 is like
T2 is amazing, and I love
one
it.
of the greatest sequels of all time.
Yeah, no, but I prefer Terminator. 100%.
Oh, I think I'm on Terminator. Anything else? Anything else you want to add, Jusef?
No, Arnold's face expressions are great.
Like it
Him
has
like
he has like 100 lines or something like that.
him looking at in the car, just looking at everything without eyebrows, going like this.
No, I'm sorry. Arnold has 17 lines in the whole film, and it's
Oh
like
yeah,
100
no.
words or something.
But you
yeah,
don't need lines when
no,
you're that physical presence. You don't need lines.
his facial expressions. And that's why I think, and I know I've talked more about Arnold's career than the actual movie on here.
No,
But,
we've talked a lot.
like,
we're good. We did good.
That's why I think like Arnold's career, like if it's just Conan, right? If it just ends at Conan, or not ends, but like doesn't do Terminator, which then like leads to Commando and the Predator. I just don't think it takes off, right? Because comedy Arnold doesn't start until the 90s.
No, yeah, he does like Kindergarten Cop before T2 actually. So
Yeah, because he wanted to break, which is funny. He in the intro of Kindergarten Cop, he's dressed like how the Terminator dresses, the trench coat and the fucking glasses.
And he has like the weird beard that he'll end up having in End of Days as well.
But anyway, yeah, I think we covered this movie really well. So happy to have you back on. And obviously, you're allowed to come on whenever.
No, I won't come back until you need a guest.
I ask you till we need
episodes.
episodes.
Until I need to fill in.
All right. Next time you come on, we'll do another. Let's try to do another like borderline. Is this a horror movie or is this just a movie?
I feel like that's my theme, right? I first did 7, and now I'm doing Terminator, so I gotta come up with another one where people go like, "Huh, yeah, it is a horror movie."
Yeah. So, because like we had a comedy podcast, I'd be like, let's do The Happening. But anyway,
let's do Faithful Findings. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's one. I actually mentioned it on the flyby with Brian because I was like, I gotta talk about Faithful Findings. I always find this is my Chucky. You guys always find a way to talk about Child's Play.
I almost talked about
Faithful Findings.
Almost talked about Child's Play in this episode because the tones of the first 2 movies are exactly the fucking same.
Yeah, pretty much. You can see that Chucky was very much inspired by Terminator.
Oh yeah.
But thank you for having me, Joe. I'm glad that Fear is back on track.
Hey, we back, baby. And just for where can everyone find you? And you have a few podcasts out there as well.
Yeah, go to. I usually don't do this, but on our other show, but Unprecedented, the podcast, we talk about presidents' lives and how they got to the White House and how history looks back on them.
Very nice. And as always, you can find me here. All right, stay frightful, everyone. Bye.
Welcome to Flyover State of Fear.